What's up, my fellow fiends? This is Nim here, your friendly neighborhood demon, and we are going to be going over some RPG horror stories on Reddit. D&D is one of my favorite hobbies, so I'm really excited to get into this, having had some of my own horror stories in the past, which I may share in the future. Anyway, this is an old one, so some of the details might be a bit fuzzy. When I was still in school, I found out my local game store was starting a new D&D 3e group, and I was excited to try, so I joined along with a friend from school who we'll call Kate for the story. Kate made an elven bard, and wrote a pretty great tragic backstory that left her with PTSD, depression, and an intense desire to heal not only her own sorrows, but the sorrows of others through music. That sounds like a great backstory already. I mean, you have a lot the DM can latch onto. You definitely have your main character goal, and tons of people write tragic backstories for their characters. So far, nothing seems wrong with that. The DM seemed to really latch onto the depression part and ask questions like, does she really have depression, or is she just one of those edgy attention whores who thinks it's cool to slit her wrists? My dude, if someone is suffering from depression and self-harm, they're not an attention whore who thinks it's cool to slit their wrists. You're just a jerk. That should have been the first red flag, but we were young and naive. Session 1 rolls around and the DM is going through each character one by one, describing our morning in the starting town, and basically setting everything up for us to become an adventuring party. When he gets to Kate, he starts by asking her to make a will save. She rolls a 14. The DM describes how she wakes up feeling like she's being smothered by a blanket of anguish and sorrow, and then takes our character sheet, rips it in half, and says, "Sorry, your character was unable to overcome her depression and spent the whole day in bed, so she misses the plot hook and never joins the party." Then hands her a blank sheet and says in the most arrogant tone, "Heroes don't have depression." Kate spends the rest of the session pretending to make a new character, and neither of us return for session 2. Oh my god. There are plenty of people out there who have depression who make it through everyday life. A lot of people who have depression end up not getting help because they hide their depression so well. And to say, no, heroes don't have depression. Heroes who, by the way, have to go through some of the most traumatizing stuff on these adventures. To say that doesn't affect your character, you can't go on because you have a mental illness, you can't go on because you got affected and have PTSD by what happened, you're just supposed to have no emotional change at all. Give me a break. Really, this DM just sounds like a jerk who doesn't like to have any kind of character who doesn't fit his mold of what a hero is. I definitely agree with them. I would not have come back for a session 2. I can also understand, being young and being nervous about leaving during the middle of a session. Especially if the rest of the people you're playing with are older and they don't seem to be, putting up a fuss about anything. So yeah, if it was me now, I think I would have just got up and left after he turned off my character sheet, because screw that guy. Anyway, on to story 2, with less depression and unfortunately more consent issues. After reading all the stories on here, I think I have an RPG story that qualifies as a horror story as well. The event takes place in a homebrew campaign that I was playing with my schoolmates after the DM introduced us to D&D 5e. It involves a divine soul sorcerer, me, and a succubus rogue, as well as 2 other friends that don't really matter all too much. Now, it's important to say that I had a concept for my character that necessitated him to live in celibacy. Oh, you know what? We're actually getting a, male celibacy sorcerer. That's rare. Usually you see that on, the stereotype is the virginal woman, but celibate man, I'm down for this. That necessitated him to live in celibacy because of his divine descent. His personal mission was to spread his beliefs through his wondrous activities and good heart. Somehow, the player that played the succubus seemed to have found a liking for my character and wanted to corrupt him. Great. It's one of those characters. Which, to be fair, is kind of in character. Now, okay, I do agree. If you are a succubus, I get it. Most succubi in D&D are all about corruption. Succubi, incubi, that's what they try and do. So, I get it being tempting, but at the same time, you have to remember you're in a party with someone, and you don't need to be taking away their character agency. I kindly informed them that I did not want my character and his personal arc to be killed off in our first session, but oh well, I guess I wasn't clear enough. Fast forward to our first visit to a tavern where Succubus proceeded to make advances that I blocked in and out of character, reminding everyone about my personal plans. Suddenly, Succubus turns to our DM and says, "I want to charm him!" This was part of the homebrew Succubus traits. Yeah, no. Charm doesn't work that way. You can't just force someone and mind control them with charm. Charm the spell or persuasion rolls, that just doesn't happen. I tried everything, literally everything, to stop what was about to happen, but the DM allowed it and I got unlucky with my roll, so here I am, charmed by a succubus that makes me drink in character. So it got to the point where my character was too drunk to fight back any advance, which basically meant I lost control over my character. It's really sad when that sort of thing happens in game. Look, regardless of whether you're a player or a DM, you don't take away a player's agency like that. You don't force them, especially into sexual situations that they're not comfortable with, that their character isn't comfortable with. Why do so many people think that's an okay thing to do? Succubus then proceeded to describe all the awful things she would do with my character, consequently ruining my arc from the very start and traumatizing me as a player. As my character woke up, knowing what happened, I decided there was no point in playing him anymore, playing out the moment where the group tried to get me out of the room, which I answered with a long farewell speech. So this was my horror story. I ended up leaving the campaign, but everything got resolved shortly after. TLDR, Succubus player needed to have their way and did unspeakable things with my character, and the DM didn't do anything about it. Okay, this is the moment where, as a DM, you seriously need to step in and say, no. DMs have that ability. Just have a backbone and tell the other player, no, this player doesn't want to do that. Anyway, got a little bit ranty there, but I genuinely hope that seeing posts like this can help other players realize what they're doing. You know, hopefully, if you are the kind of person who thinks, haha, this is funny, and everyone's gonna like it, you can realize that not everybody does. You know, not everyone's out there doing this maliciously. Some people just don't realize that it's, you know, socially not the best thing to do. I get it. D&D is full of socially awkward nerds most of the time. And most of the time, if you're socially awkward, you don't always understand boundaries. So I'm hoping that by exposing some of these bad gaming habits, you know, showing them to a wider audience, hopefully someone can sit there and they can go, oh no, I do those kinds of things. Am I one of those guys? And they can learn from their experience and not do it again. You know, learn to talk to their friends. Or if you want to do that, if you want to be in that kind of, you know, if you want to play D&D that way, find a group that also plays that way. If you have to play D&D where you're taking away every other player's agency, where you're, you know, forcing roles on people, find other people who are into that. Anyway, that's gonna be all from me, and I will see you guys with my next video. Bye-bye!